Hello, and welcome to Ancestry 103 Through Lines and Custom Groups. My name is Brooke Alius, and I'm a user experience designer here at Ancestry. And on the right, you'll see Randon, and he's a product manager on our mobile app, and he will be going over some things with us later in the presentation. So our agenda today is an introduction to ThruLines, and then how ThruLines can help you with your research. And then Randon will go through how custom groups with your DNA matches can help you make discoveries on the Ancestry mobile app. So let's get started with an introduction to ThruLines. So ThruLines is a tool that auto-groups your matches by common ancestors that you may share with them, which is pretty cool. So it uses your public or private searchable link tree, as well as other Ancestry member trees to suggest these relationships. So they will use your DNA matches trees and then other Ancestry member trees to try to make these suggested relationships to common ancestors. And in order to use ThruLines, you need to have a public or private searchable tree linked to your DNA results. And you'll see on the right side of the screen here that we have a screenshot of the DNA logged in homepage. That is where you're going to find access to ThruLines. It's right next to the DNA matches card. You'll see a card that says ThruLines on the right-hand side, and then you click Explore ThruLines to see the feature. So next is how ThruLines can help you with your research. So there are two things that I'm going to talk about today, and then we'll go over a live demo where I'll use my account and we can take a look at how we can use ThruLines to help us with our research. So first is genetic evidence. So if you can prove that a DNA match is related to one of your ancestors with confirming research, this starts to create genetic evidence that the ancestor that you have in your tree is likely correct. So, and the more DNA matches that you can confirm are related to an ancestor, the better genetic evidence that is. So what ThruLines does is provides you with different options of how a match could then be related to an ancestor. And then we give you that path, and then it's your job to then evaluate that path to see if that DNA match is actually related to that ancestor with the hints that we give you. So it's important to remember that ThruLines are hints. This is not based off of DNA. We're just using your DNA matches trees and then your tree and then other ancestry member trees to try to make these connections of how these DNA matches could fit into your family. So the next way that ThruLines can help is finding potential ancestors. So you can use ThruLines to see ancestry hints for potential ancestors in your direct line based on your DNA matches trees and ancestry member trees. So not only can ThruLines provide how DNA matches could be related to ancestors that you have in your tree already, but it can also provide you with potential ancestors for your direct line that you may not have in your tree already. For example, a third great grandparent, and we can use ThruLines to show you these potential ancestors and then also the matches that could also be related to them. So then Randon will take us through how custom groups with DNA matches can help you make discoveries. By grouping your matches and using custom groups, they can give you clues about how you're related to your DNA matches, even if those DNA matches don't have common ancestor hints or trees attached to their account. So we'll be excited to hear from him about that. In the meantime, we're going to see a live demo of ThruLines, and I'll take you through some examples of the points that we made. So this is my ThruLines. This is my account. For the sake of privacy, you're going to see some names and images blurred out for people who are living, including the DNA matches and my parents. So when you see something blurred out, that's just for privacy reasons for this presentation, but you won't see that on your account. So first of all, when you open ThruLines, you'll see a landing page that may look similar to this. It'll break your direct ancestors out by parents, great grandparents, great great grandparents, and so on. So the people that are in these white solid boxes are ancestors that you have in your tree already. And then the farther you scroll, or depending how many people you have added to your tree, you'll start to see these potential ancestor hints, which will be green, and they will have a dotted border around them, and they will say potential ancestor with a little tag. So that means that these are people that you do not have in your tree yet. When you hover over through line, you'll be able to see how many DNA matches that through lines can connect to this ancestor. So once you hover over these cards, you can kind of gauge the ones that you want to take a look at. This one has 4, this one has 5. So it just depends on what you're interested in. But let's say that I want to provide more genetic evidence that I have the right person as my great-grandfather. So I have Ole Lorraine Winther as my great-grandfather in my tree, and I can see that ThruLines is suggesting that I have 3 DNA matches that could also be related to him. So when I click into this, you're going to get a throughline tree. So ThruLines uses ancestry trees to suggest that you might be related to 3 matches through my common ancestor, which is Ole Lorraine Winther, my great-grandfather. So you'll see me here at the bottom. And then I have my mother, and then my grandmother, and then my great-grandfather. And then you can see that I also have my 2 grandaunts in my tree who are sisters to my grandmother. And then we can see that I could be connected to 2 other DNA matches. My mom is tested, has taken a DNA test, so she is another one of those DNA matches. But I have 2 possible second cousins that ThruLines is telling me could be related to my great-grandfather. So you'll see that in this example, I have 2, it says private, and they're green. So that usually, especially if they're close to a living person, which is a DNA match, they're most likely private because they're still alive. So if I click on the evaluate tag, you'll see that it says it's a private person, and this person's name is hidden because they are marked as living in ancestry trees, or they may be in trees marked private by their owners. So most likely in this case, these 2 matches have their parents, but they're marked as private because they're living. So a great way to then confirm if these relationships are correct would then be to go to your ancestor or to your matches page, and you'll see up here in the top right-hand corner, there is a message button. And if you click this, feel free to reach out to your matches. You can talk to them about how there's a ThruLine suggestion that you share a great-grandparent, and then you can get some more information there. So we're going to go back to this ThruLine, and then once I research this, talk to my matches, then I can add these people to my tree. I can add the parent and then add my match, and then that starts to create genetic evidence that this is the correct ancestor once I can prove these paths down to a match. So we're going to go back to all of our ThruLines, and we're going to look at a different example. So up here at the top of the ThruLines page, we have some filters. We can look at ancestors that have new DNA matches, potential ancestors, ancestors that are just in my linked tree, maternal, and then paternal. So I'm going to just filter by my maternal ancestors. And then I'm going to scroll down here, and I'm interested in this potential ancestor of a 3rd great-grandfather, John Wesley Brock. So I'm going to click into him. And then we can see that he's marked up here at the top. If you expand these rows here, then you can see how these paths start to build up. I'm going to click this 2 DNA matches and open this one as well to kind of just get a full picture here. So you can see me down here at the bottom. Then I have my mom, my grandfather, my great-grandfather, my 2nd great-grandfather. We can open this 5 DNA matches box up to also see more matches that could be related through my 2nd great-grandfather, but we're just going to focus on my 3rd great-grandfather here. So we're looking at this here, and I have a path down to me, and then we have a path down to this match here, and then we have a path that then splits off into 2 matches over here. So I could have be related to this match as a 3rd cousin 1 times removed, and these 2 as 4th cousins. So how do I then go through evaluating this? So it's the most helpful to start with the last person that you have in your tree and then go from there. So I'm going to start by looking at John Wesley Brock. You can see in this ThruLines tree, just like on the main homepage, if you have an ancestor that's white and in a solid box, that means that these ancestors are in my tree. And if they are green and have a outline, a dotted outline and an evaluate tag, that means that they are not in your tree yet, and it's something for you to evaluate and discover. So if I click on John Wesley Brock, it's going to bring up a little evaluation panel here on the side. So this is saying that John Wesley Brock may be the father of Joseph Douglas Brock, who I have in my tree, and below is some of the information that Ancestry has used to suggest this relationship to us. So it looks like I have a couple trees that are linked to DNA matches of mine, and then we also have just other Ancestry member trees who also have this relationship listed in their tree. Sometimes Ancestry will also show records that have these potential relationships, and we'll see an example of that a little later. So you can click into each one of these trees and you can start evaluating the information. You can click to go look at, you can click on John Wesley Brock's name specifically if you want to go look at their tree, their person page for that person in this DNA matches tree. The information is also just right here in the panel if you just want to do a quick scan. It looks like this person has put a bunch of records in their tree, so this is a good one that I might want to look into to confirm if John Wesley Brock is actually my third great grandfather as the father of Joseph Douglas Brock. I'd want to look at things like census records to see if he's listed as a father or if Joseph is listed as a son. Once I do that research, try to figure out if this hint that ThruLines is giving is correct. If I do in fact find that this is correct, I can click Add to Tree here from one of the options that ThruLines is giving me in this evaluation panel. So I could look at any one of these trees. Let's say that I use this one and I go through and look at her tree and look at the records and I verify that John Wesley Brock is Joseph Douglas Brock's father. And then I've confirmed that with records and then research. Then I can add this person to my tree from their tree. So if I click Add to Tree, you can see that we're adding John Wesley Brock to your family tree. You can see that this has then turned into a white box. It's outlined. I can then click and view profile and go through and see that this is the person that I just added to my tree. You can also already start seeing hints for this person, which is pretty cool. So then once I close this out, this evaluate tag should actually be gone now. So I think that's just a little bug we have in the system. But then it's my job, once I've decided that this is actually my third great grandfather, then I can start looking at the other matches that I want to then add to my tree with these paths based off of proving if this through line is correct or not. So my next step it depends on the match or whoever I'm interested in, to then start proving if these hints are correct. I could click on John here and it'll give me some more examples of trees and hints to look at to add him to my tree. As I continue to do this, I just keep going down the line and making sure that this is correct. You can see this is an example of records that are attached here. So I can click into this, see that Mary E. Brock is listed as a daughter to John C. Brock, which is an example of this relationship here. It says here that before I can add Mary E. Brock to my tree from this record, John must be added to my tree before doing that. So I can add these people to my tree manually. You can just use ThruLines as kind of a hint space to kind of look at suggestions of how these people could be related to you. Or like we did with John Wesley Brock, if you click into them and choose one of the trees or records that we're suggesting could have this relationship, you can add straight from there as well. And so then the more matches, like we said before, creating that genetic evidence, the more matches that we can confirm paths to a common ancestor, then the better, the more likely we are to be getting this ancestor correct in our trees if we can prove these paths out. And then we can also find potential ancestors, just like John Wesley Brock was a potential for mine in my tree. So now we are going to pass the baton over to Randon, and he is going to talk to us about custom groups with your DNA matches in the mobile app.
My name is Randon Morford, and I'm happy to share how custom groups with DNA matches can help you make discoveries. The value in DNA matches is that these matches are related to you. Utilizing your matches can help you learn more about your shared ancestry. The goal is to figure out how you're related to these matches. With Ancestry, you're able to use many different record types to learn about your ancestors. DNA Matches uses science to connect you with your ancestors. So let's take a look at how I use the app to figure out how I'm related to these cousin matches. I start with my second cousins. Doing this will create a broader and more inclusive group that will connect close and distant relatives. To do this, I start by clicking on the Matches tab at the bottom of the screen. Now I scroll to my second cousin. There's Stephanie, and I'm going to swipe and add a group. It's a custom group. I'll pick this nice burgundy color, and we'll call this line 1. Say done. And now she has that color for this group. To add the other individuals that she and I share, the matches that she and I share for this family line, I'm going to tap on Stephanie. Then I'll tap on the compare button, scroll down to shared matches, and tap on view all. These are all of the matches that she and I have in common. Now I could swipe and add each one of these individuals that way, but I've got a quicker method. At the top of the screen, there's a plus button. This allows me to do this in more of a batch method. So now I can go through and just tap on each one of these people. And I'm going to go down to the end of the third cousins. That's the 100 centimorgan range. Under each one of these individuals, you'll see close family or what distant cousin, whatever it might be, and then it'll say how many CMs are shared, centimorgans. So I'm going to go down to that 100. And it really doesn't take very long. I'm almost down the bottom already of where I want to go. Oh, went a little too far actually. Go back up. There we go. And we are almost there. Okay, I have all of them. Make sure they're added to the group by selecting that line. Say done. Great. Now I'm going to do that several more times. Let's do that again. I'll select one of the second cousins that isn't part of a group. We're going to create a custom group. Make this one pink. Line 2. Done. Now we'll tap on Jennifer there, tap on compare, then view all under shared communities, and we'll do this again. Okay, add them to line 2. Then we'll go back out and we'll find another cousin, second cousin, who isn't part of a group. We'll select, here's one. I'm going to call this line 3. Pick another color. And now we'll select that individual, compare, view all matches. We'll do this one more time. Line number 4. we'll pick this color here. Done. Once again, go in here and select shared matches. Now that I've created those 4 different lines, I'm now going to take a look at the family trees of these individuals and try and figure out how we are connected. What family line do we come through? So, let's take a look at my family tree. I start with those second cousins because I wanted to get a little further out. That takes me to my great-grandparents at least, right? So I've got my great-grandparents here, and I'm connected here through, I've got my dad's line, my mom's line. Great, okay, we're all set. Now, let's take a look at the first one. The first color was burgundy. So let's scroll down and try and find someone who has that burgundy color and also has a large size tree so I can figure out what name we're looking for here. Okay, she's got a pretty large family tree. Let's take a look. As you can see, I've already been here before, and I found the name Brooke. If we look at my family tree, I share Brooke as well. Margaret Brooke down at the bottom. So we're going to mark that one burgundy. We know that anyone who has that color is going to come through that line. Next one. Let's take a look. We'll go back out. We'll do the darker pink. So let's find someone with dark pink and a large tree. Okay, so this person right here, I've done a little further research, and to save a little time for this presentation, I'm going to tell you this person here, Elizabeth K. Davis, at the top here, is a relation through the Dement line. My great-grandfather, Reuben, his mother is a Davis, and that is how we are connected. So now I've got 2 of these identified and what lines they're coming through. Let's do 2 more. We're going to go with the orange color, and here's one with a rather large tree. And there is the name St. John right there. That identifies the next line right there on my father's side. Edith St. John, my great-grandmother. And lastly, let's go with one more. We'll go with that last color, which is the bright pink. And this one I'm going to do a little differently. If we look at the names, this one tells it right away. I have a second cousin with the last name Armstrong, and it has the pink color. I know from others that I've looked at, without even looking at the tree, that Armstrong name keeps coming up. And that is, from looking at the trees, how I'm connected to these people. So we've been able to identify 4 different lines. We have on my father's side, coming through his dad, we have the St. John family. Through his mother, my grandmother, we have the Armstrong family. On my mom's side, through the Dement line, and then we have, through her mother's side, the Brooke line. This is a great way to create family lines, understand how you're connected, and now as I go through and look at these individuals, these matches, I can see what family lines they're connected to, and if I have questions about a particular line, these are people I'm going to reach out to and see what information they have. Maybe they can clarify some things for me, or maybe I can for them. Thank you for joining us. We are grateful to have had this opportunity to share with you today. Go out there and keep discovering. Thank you.